A new rom-com titled The Materialists is out now, featuring Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal. And the general discourse around this film, especially from young women, is that you should always date the man with money and never date a Brokie. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Guys, before we get into today's video, please like and subscribe. Yes, I went and saw The Materialists in theaters. I took my ass all the way to the theater, bought some popcorn, sat down. I was expecting to watch a magnifique film. And what did I get? I did not get that. You know, I'm on the side, or the group where people say this film left so much to be desired. It was really, really not good in my opinion. And I'm so curious to see what you guys say in the comments down below, but I did not like this film. It's not to say that I liked nothing about it. In the beginning, as I'm watching, I really liked the way it was filmed. It reminded me of a lot of classic rom-coms like Sleepless in Seattle or When Harry Met Sally. And I was thinking, this director, Celine Song, has vision, and I can see it. A lot of the beginning scenes of this film showed a lot of promise, and I think asked a lot of interesting questions about what we value in relationships, how male and female shallowness shows up in relationships, what it means to feel valuable in a relationship, and asking the question, is feeling valuable the same as being loved? It confronted the boxes that we create in relationships that can be sort of superficial, like wanting somebody who's below the age of 30 for men, or wanting a man who's above 6 foot for women. And it confronted modern dating in a way that left space for acceptance, but also for critique. As a girl who loves fashion, the costuming and the dress for Dakota Johnson was really nice. Although nobody in the world is going to believe a girl who makes $80,000 a year living in, I think, New York was going to be wearing those outfits. Yeah, we need to up the salary on that character, Celine. The first like 15 to 20 minutes of this movie was really good. It had a lot of fun and quirky scenes where the audience was laughing, and I thought, okay, this is going to confront modern dating and what we want from each other and how materialistic we can be in dating in a really interesting way. And then after that, it just went okay. Some of the writing in this film is so on the nose, so bland, so straightforward that your girl would have preferred watching paint dry. And as far as watching paint dry, that's basically what Pedro Pascal, Chris Evans, and Dakota Johnson did with these performances. Like, yes, give us nothing. Absolutely nothing. How anybody could walk away from this film thinking that they saw charisma, energy, or chemistry from any of these characters in this supposed love triangle, it's beyond me. I saw more chemistry and charisma in their damn PR tour than I saw on screen watching the movie. In watching some of the PR clips for this film, I thought I was gonna go into that theater, I'd be blushing, smiling, kicking my feet. I was not. I sat as still as a statue. There was no chemistry between these three individuals, and I don't know how that was pulled off. Now, on top of the lack of chemistry between the three main characters in this film, we also had a lack of trusting in the audience. This film served to you on a silver platter every single bit of connection you were supposed to build throughout the script, every single bit of internal turmoil that these characters were going through, and especially Dakota Johnson in choosing between the Pedro Pascal character, who is a rich man offering a financially secure relationship, and Chris Evans, a 37-year-old Brokie who is still working as a waiter who is offering nothing more than love. Let me give you just a little example about how this movie quite literally just hands you everything you're meant to be contemplating as you're watching it. With Dakota Johnson and Pedro Pascal's character, the rich man, as I said before, they sit down at a dinner date, and he quite literally pitches her in a business transaction format their relationship and why they should be together based off of what they bring to the table. Now, in relation to that, or in juxtaposition to that, with Chris Evans' character, the Brokie, we get this scene where they are fighting with one another, and she quite literally exclaims that she cannot be in a relationship with a broke man. She cannot deal with the lack of finances in this relationship. I should mention for the sake of the plot that Dakota Johnson's character and Chris Evans' character dated 10 years prior. So they are exes of 10 years, and she is revisiting his brokenness. Which has not changed, and he is now a 37-year-old waiter. Now, in the background of this love triangle choice that Dakota Johnson is experiencing, she is a matchmaker, and quite a successful matchmaker. And we see throughout the film that a lot of her matchmaking has to do with just checking boxes. How tall do you want this person to be? How fit do you want them to be? How much money do you want them to make? And at a certain point in this film, this sort of philosophy or structure or formula comes to bite her in the ass, and we are confronted with the question of whether or not ticking these boxes really means anything about a person's character or who they are deep down or how they will treat you in a relationship, which, yes, is a fascinating question, but is so poorly executed in this film. And now for the most major spoiler alert of all. By the end of this film, Dakota Johnson is no longer a matchmaker. She leaves her job and she ends up with none other than Brokie Chris Evans. We've seen this choice play out in movies like Aladdin with Jasmine, in Titanic with Rose, in The Notebook with Allie, in Princess Bride with Buttercup, in Little Women with Meg March. Over and over, women are confronted with a choice of financial prosperity or financial security, and the choice of love with little financial security, and they go with the choice of love and little financial security. But this movie seems to have rocked the boat of modern women, and I'm going to get into their responses and commentary before we maybe explain why this film has gotten this response. But overwhelmingly, young women are saying, oh, hell no. I'm choosing Pedro Pascal and not Chris Evans. The Brokie can go away in his lemon car, and I'm going to hop in the Porsche and go to my penthouse apartment with the guy who has money and treats our relationship like a business deal. And why is that? Why are we getting these responses? Let's read. So for the romantics in this film, you get a scene where Chris Evans tells Dakota Johnson, when I see your face, I see gray hair and wrinkles and children that look like you. For the Materialists, you get this conversation between Pedro Pascal and Dakota Johnson where she says, you make me feel valuable, and he says, you are valuable. Now, somebody responded to this on X and said, one of them is threatening me with kids and wrinkles, and another one is validating my self-worth. I know who to choose. And this got 230,000 likes. 230,000 likes. So I guess modern women feel threatened by the prospect of living to old age, or at least looking like they've lived to old age, and having children with a man that they are in love with who has no money. Another person on X has just watched Materialist. It's broke guy propaganda and nothing else. Waste of time. Horrible. This viral TikTok says, don't ever sell me a drama about a broke man and a dumb girl as a rom-com ever. Girls, don't pick the man who has not changed in 10 years and can't actually give you a reason as to why he loves you. Another TikTok says, if a man can't afford to live by himself, he definitely cannot afford to be married or have kids. The Materialist was nothing but a true-to-life horror film about how trauma and low self-esteem limit women's choices and send them spiraling back to exes they know can't give them what they want. Women deserve financial security and love. And I also want to read some of the comments underneath these posts because they are enlightening. Somebody says, broke in 20s? Okay, but broke in 30s? I'm out. Another one says, no, then she thinks about quitting her job and not taking the CEO position to what? Be broke with him? Another says, you can't convince me this isn't a horror movie disguised as a rom-com. And lastly, recession indicator. I think the difference lies in the writing of these stories and the development of these characters. In the Titanic, for example, we can look at Rose, Jack, and Cal, and the choice is clear because Cal's an asshole. So he might give you the heart of the sea or the heart of the ocean or whatever that necklace is, but he's awful. And with the Materialists, you really don't get that same juxtaposition, especially because the acting from Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal is so bland. You are getting nothing from both of these men, but Pedro Pascal has a bag. Plus, Pedro Pascal's in his whole heartthrob era, which you all know how I feel about that. If you don't, you can watch that video there. So I think the choice becomes a little bit more muddied when it comes to this modern dating era if both of these men are giving nothing on screen and one of them has millions of dollars. Outside of my general writing critique of this film and maybe the poor character development and execution on that front, I think modern dating has just really changed what we're looking for in relationships. When you have women who are more educated than the men around them, at least when we're looking at numbers when it comes to higher education and degrees, and when you have women who are overwhelmingly starting to out-earn men, they're looking for more in this materialist sense from their relationship. I think a great example of this is those videos where you see college girls being asked what they want the salary of their future partner to be, and they give some very, very interesting answers. Love and personality seem to be different boxes that women are trying to check off in their pursuit of a significant other, but increasingly we're seeing things like he has to be above 6 foot or he has to make over 100K also be significant boxes on the list. And when you talk to a lot of modern women, many of them credit this change in priorities superiority to men themselves. They say this is actually a response to misogyny. You guys relegated us to our weight and our looks and our young age and our fertility, so we're going to do the same to you guys with your height and your income.
You were 5'6" before?
And well, I think that's an oversimplification of dating, love, and relationships, and is really going to get you nowhere if that's how you make your choices when it comes to significant others. I can see that pattern playing out in the response to The Materialist. Many people liken the narrative that you can date a financially unstable man and still love him to propaganda, as is exemplified by this comment. It says, "Can't believe these kind of stupid love propaganda movies are being made in 2025. Girls, always marry a man who is at your level or above financially. Don't marry for potential or love or lust. Life is too short to support a broke man." I have seen some nuanced arguments for pushing Dakota Johnson to pick the rich character in Pedro Pascal, and where I see that is where people say Chris Evans' character has not developed over the 10 years that they have been exes. He remains in the same financial position. He remains in the same job, even though he has aspirations to be something else. He wants to be an actor. He has made no steps forward in choosing that dream or becoming any part of that dream. And I feel like that's a better argument for not choosing the man that has really nothing to do with his finances and more to do with his wherewithal, with his empowerment, and with his diligence towards working towards something that he wants. And if it's been made clear to Chris Evans' character that a way of showing love, support, and security to Dakota Johnson is making a little bit more money, and in 10 years he's been unable to do so, then maybe that's how he's going to be in a relationship. I feel like that's a better argument. What's unfortunate about this film is that we get the character that we get out of Chris Evans, and we get the character that we get out of Pedro Pascal, which is so poorly and flatly written. I think if we got more vibrant, vivid characters that had more nuance to their personalities and more facets to their personalities, we'd have a better sense of what society actually wants in seeing people's responses to Dakota Johnson's choice. That makes sense? Because the characters of Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal are so flat, and the same can be said for Dakota Johnson, you are literally making a flat choice between broke or poor. So it is kind of hard to understand when a woman who's choosing between essentially the same guy in two different fonts chooses the broke one. Ironically, the response to this movie reinforced the inherent critique of the film itself, this materialist response that we have to dating and finding significant others based off of just the hellscape that we've created in modern dating in general. Anyways, I could yap on and on about this film, even though I feel like it was so poorly put together. I guess the message of this video is because it was so poorly put together, we're not really getting a pulse on modern dating other than the typical diatribes that we're functioning in on any given day about being 6 foot or taller or making $100,000 or more, or she needs to be fit, or she needs to be young, yada yada, trad wife this, money that. We could have had so much more from this film if it was better made. And I don't mean to hate on Celine Song. I like a lot of her other projects. This one just did not hit for me. Guys, let me know how you felt about The Materialists in the comments down below. Do you disagree with me? Do you agree with me? If you disagree with me, duke it out in the comments down below, but do so respectfully. Encourage healthy debate on this channel. And if you like this video, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a video for you guys, which is just about every day. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Yeah, you better.